Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist. Back today, I'm just trying to adjust my camera. Okay, let's see. Maybe this is the better way. Yeah. So, we are going to talk about carbohydrates today. These are some of the most misunderstood, macros. So, in the nutrition basics, in the nutrition month, every single day, I'll be hopping on live to talk about different topics pertaining to, different nutritional like strategies and tips. Today, I'm going to talk about macros, especially carbohydrates, right? So, macros are the nutrients that you require in larger quantities like fats, carbohydrates, proteins. If you look at micronutrients, they are like zinc, iodine, so certain minerals that your body requires in smaller amounts, right? So that's the difference between the two. And when we are looking at macros, especially carbs, there is so much misinformation about that. And I'll talk about my own health journey. So there was this time where um, I was a student of Ayurveda in the second year, right? And being a Kapha Prakriti person, I am somebody who's always in the overweight category. I've always, been stockier built, heavier built, right? I could be like a perfectly sized medium in Canada. But when it comes to India, because you look at, where you come from, right? I would be on the larger scale or, uh, in the overweight category as compared to, the where I come from, right? My culture and community. So I have tried my fair share of diets before I came to Ayurveda. And one of the things, even as a student, when I was studying Ayurveda in the second year, I was like, I was really dieting. I was studying about carbs, and I had some misinformation at the time, and I decided to go extremely low carb. And I did that for about a few months. And the one thing that I realized was, how I found that I'd taken my diet to an extreme was that I actually fainted in one of the clinics. We were having clinics in different wards, and I think in the medicine department, I just fainted down, right? And I almost blacked out. I had no idea what was happening around me. And that was a result of the crazy diet that I was on. I was cutting out all the carbs, all the sugars from my diet. That led to, my hair falling out. That led to my, skin losing its luster. I was grumpy, angry, irritable, extremely frustrated, right? So this is exactly the reason why you should not go low carb, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to say a quick hi to UV. I'm going to say a quick hi to Tandra. Thanks, guys, for joining me live. Today we are going to talk about carbohydrates and the good and the bad of them, right? So carbohydrates mainly are extremely important in our body to provide us with energy, right? If you are looking at the energy production of the body, our brain tends to rely on glucose, right, which is the smallest molecule or the smallest unit of a carbohydrate. And this glucose is easily absorbed in the body, right? And that is why, like, our body is going to always prefer it over ketones or any other, nutritional factors. Like proteins are not picked up easily in the body. Fats, ketones are going to be secondary when it comes to providing the energy, but you have to be into proper ketosis, right? But your body loves carbs, your body loves glucose. Now, there are different categories of carbohydrates. There are the simple carbohydrates, which are almost refined sugars, or your breads, pastas, which don't have any other fiber in them. They don't have any other, nutritional nutrients in them. And then there are whole carbs, which have a lot of fiber in them as well, right? So the complex carbs have complex chain structures. Now, complex carbs are going to be beneficial because of the fiber, and simple carbs are going to increase your blood sugar in the simplest, forms. So understanding that, what kind of carb you're choosing is important as well. And this is not to say that completely avoid refined carbs or simple carbs, right? If you are looking for a workout, if you want to go for a workout, and if you want to go for a run, for example, having a simple carb before the run or before the activity, or before a sport, is going to be easier, because it's going to be picked up fast in your bloodstream and give you energy, right? But if you're having a lot of simple carbs and you're just sitting and watching TV, it's not going to help you. So these are, the subtle differences. Now, the most important thing about carbohydrates is, as we talked about, your body needs energy at all time to function, right? This energy comes from carbohydrates, and your body can also store energy, which also comes from carbohydrates, right? So glycogen is the stored form of glucose, and glycogen is stored in your liver as well as muscles. So your liver is going to have 100 grams of glycogen that's stored. So if your body needs glucose, your liver will break it down and start releasing it, right? And your muscles can store approximately 500 grams of uh, glycogen. And this will vary from a person to person depending on how much muscle mass you have, right? The more muscle mass you have, the more glycogen your body can store in it. And when you have good amounts of muscle glycogen, you're not going to break the muscle down. Your body is going to actually preserve the muscle mass, right? And this is also important for people who are athletes, who are on different nutritional programs. If you're looking to gain muscle mass, right, or if you're looking to optimize your performance as an athlete, you need stored glucose, which is going to ensure that your muscle is not getting broken down. And I cannot even tell you the number of times when I have clients who are eating a lot of protein or who are working out, doing strength training in the gym, 4 or 5 days a week, and then they come to me for a body composition report, and we find that they actually have low muscle mass, right? So this is one reason that they're not having enough carbs, or they're not timing the carbs right. So tomorrow we'll talk more about timing your carbohydrates, right? Today I'm just going to give you a general idea about carbs and why they're important. So now, one of the things when it comes to carbs is, they're also very important for your digestion, right? I'm going to say a quick hi to Devika has joined. A few other people have joined me on Instagram. And Tandra, talk about menopause belly. Yes, I will talk about menopause and nutrition. This whole month, we're talking about nutrition. So let's talk about menopause and nutrition, in some days for sure. Going back to carbs, there are also going to be fiber, is a type of complex carb, and it's extremely important for your digestive health. When it comes to fiber, there are two kinds. There is the soluble fiber, which will soften and create the bulk of the stool, and there is insoluble fiber that is not broken down, right? And this can pass through the body undigested, and this is also extremely important in your body. And the unsoluble fiber is going to protect your digestive tract against diseases, right? It has almost like a scrubbing bubbles action with which it'll bind different things, or it will take different things out with it, right? And soluble fiber is also a very important way of lowering your cholesterol. Like when you have extreme if you're dieting, right, if you're having extreme low carb diets and if you have high cholesterol, one of the simplest things you could do is start adding more fiber to your diet, and that is going to really help you with your cholesterol, right? Now, for diabetes as well, if you have higher blood sugar, right, if you tend to be on the higher side of, your HbA1c is over 6, or if your blood sugar is spiking up, one of the things you need to do is start increasing the fiber in your diet, right? So that's one of the most important things to do. Fiber is going to delay the absorption of carbs, and that is how it's going to keep you healthy. And the third is the mood, right? If you are somebody who's struggling with your mood, if you are angry, frustrated, or depressed, often low carb diets will create a lot of issues with your mood, right? So diets which are extremely in low carbs have seen to be associated with greater risk of mood disorders like anxiety and depression, right? And carbohydrates are important for creating a mood balancing hormone called serotonin, right? So if you are angry, if you're irritable, if you're really feeling frustrated, extremely emotional at the drop of the hat, that's going to be created by having an extremely low carb diet. Now, just give me one question. I think somebody has. Yeah. So I think somebody has a question somewhere. No, I think, okay, that's fine. So this is extremely important to understand that, carbs are not your enemy, right? They are essential for your physical and mental health. And there are four big factors that could, or four big signs that you're not having enough carbs. So if you're on a low carb diet, right? And if you are constantly struggling with your moods, or if you're already having any mood disorder, I would advise you not to go low carb without talking to a practitioner, right? Do not start cutting out all the carbs. You will need complex carbs in your diet that are going to help with serotonin levels, that are going to help with mood, right? So completely cutting out carbs, going extremely low carb, something like a keto diet works for some, it will not work for each and every person, right? If you are irritable, if you're angry, right, if you feel like really snappy, one of the things that's happening is if you don't have enough physical energy, right, because you don't have enough carbohydrates or glycogen in the body, you're going to be having really low amounts of energy, and that will lead to all that crankiness, irritability, anxiety as well sometimes, right? So I would avoid an extremely low carb diet in these situations. So older diets like Atkins diet or South Beach diet, have been studied that if you go for it long term, then there are high feelings of anger, tension, as well as depression, right? um, if you are constipated, right? If you are going on an extremely low carb diet, you could be constipated because the bulk of your stool is formed by the fiber. If you have a lot of digestive issues, or if you are taking probiotics but nothing seems to work, is because you don't have good amounts of fiber in your diet, right? You need to feed the gut flora as well, which are going to have then beneficial effects in your gut as well as your mood. So, especially when you bring your probiotics or you're bringing those bacteria into your environment, you want to facilitate them to stay. So, in such a time, if you're struggling with digestive issues, if you're struggling with um, any diverticulitis and stuff, I would advise you not to go extremely low carb. Always talk to a practitioner. There are certain carbohydrates that are not going to be beneficial. There are certain carbohydrates that will be beneficial, right, in digestive issues. Talk to a practitioner, but do not go extremely low carb. It will lead to constipation, right? And constipation also means that your body is not naturally detoxifying every day. And then you're holding on to a lot more toxins in your body. Your overall toxicity level will increase. And bad breath is another common factor, right? So some people ask me that, okay, I just changed my diet and I'm having a lot of bad breath, right? So the number one reason is you're probably going way low carb, right? So that's a sign that it's not working for you. If you have suddenly developed a lot of muscle cramping, right? Diets like ketogenic diet, if you go on it for an extremely longer time, if you're not refeeding yourself with the carbs, one thing that also happens is a lot of mineral depletion, right? Because if you look at the foods like your fruits and vegetables, they're also rich in mineral content. So if you decide to go extremely low carb, what's going to happen is you're also going to lose out on these good amounts of minerals that your body requires on a day to day basis, right? Which will also lead to cramping in the calf muscles or overall fatigue, right? So if that is something you're experiencing, you are probably cutting out a lot of the carbs than you require, right? So make sure that you have to have enough carbohydrates in your body that are suitable for your unique requirements, right? This is not an appeal for everybody to go high carb, but if you look at how many carbs are promoted by different nutritionists or different schools of thought, people can have anywhere from 60% of their whole dietary intake made up of carbs to something like 20 or 30%, right? So when we talk about such a huge variation, it will definitely depend on your body. What are your requirements? What is your activity level, right? Are you an athlete, or are you having a sedentary job, or what are your goals? Are you looking to optimize your focus, right, which is always my goal, because I'm always teaching, I'm always, creating content, I'm always consulting in my clinic, right? So for me, I need brain function as one of my key requirements when I choose a diet, right? Because I swim or I work out, I do strength training, I also want to make sure that I optimize my muscle function. So that is my requirement, right? So make a list of your requirements that you require from your diet, and listen to all my talks. I'll be discussing more about carbs, proteins, fats in this month, right? So make a list, start making a list of your diet, and that is when you get a little bit clarity about what exactly you should be eating, right? Because what should I eat is one thing that I guess I get asked a lot, but it's a very vague question, because diet is something that's extremely personal, and also the amount of carbs you should be having or you should be eating are going to be personalized to you, right? So do not go extremely low carb, right? If you're looking at your skin, if you're looking at your hair, your overall health, the luster of your skin, you shouldn't go extremely low carb, right? And then another side where I see, certain diets that are promoted as Ayurvedic diets, right? So when we talk about an Ayurvedic diet, it has to be customized to you. A lot of the times, I've seen people promoting like a khichdi diet where people eat khichdi 4 times a day, or you're having a lot of rotis. So the Indian way of eating is not always the Ayurvedic way of eating, right? You need to be able to understand that you should be getting the exact amount of macros that your body requires, right? So that is my little take on the carbs today. So do not go extremely low carb. One tip I can give you is start writing everything that you eat, right? Start writing down everything that you eat, and that will give you a good idea as to what, how your food is working for you. In tomorrow's session, I will discuss more about when to time your carbohydrates and how much exactly, should you have it at each meal. And I'm going to talk about different kind of diets, like different kind of carbs for different conditions, like how much carbohydrates typically should you eat if you're having diabetes, or how much carbohydrates should you be eating if you're looking to build the muscle mass, and when to time those carbohydrates, right? I'll be discussing that in tomorrow's video. So, Holistic Meg as well as Nachiket, thanks for joining me live. Tandra, thanks for joining me live. Kate, thanks for joining me live. Have a fantastic day, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Today was a bit late, but tomorrow it's going to be 9 a.m. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for tomorrow. Bye for now.